I remember back in the day when everything was a corner away. When we dreamed and we played till the street lights came on. She told her brother to come on. Some of their friends laughed cause at curfew they stayed out past. We played games like freeze tag and hide and go seek. Your grandmother was sweet, there was always something to eat. Back when we said, yo, beef squash, man, I thought that was deep. To squash a beef and see them in the street with no repercussion, what's the malfunction? Now they kill for nothing. Back in the day when the summers were long, we stayed in the streets all night long. Without a care in the world, back then you wrote a letter if you liked a girl. Hey, I like you, do you like me too? Just answer the question, yes, no, maybe so. When you had no dough, there were lawns to mow. House parties till her mother crashed it, and when she left, right back at it. That may have been static on your favorite radio station. Everyone had cars with kids on it. Basin with rims patrol.
Hey, y'all, welcome to BMore Brooklyn. That's John Hansberry in the background, y'all. And John is actually he's a host on our station, and he actually has a show called Spitfire Poetry Shutdown because he's a poet, he's an artist, writer. So that's his music that you hear in the background. And then we also have his wife, Shalanda Hansberry, and they do a show about couples. So y'all got to check their show out. It's on Tuesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. But tonight is a really special night. Before I go any further, I'm Lady J. I'm from BMore. And that guy in the red sweatshirt is... oh, you know what? Sorry, Gilbert. Let me unmute your mic. Sorry, but they didn't hear you.
Oh, man, this is Gilbert and Bell, live from Brooklyn. You already know.
He's live from Brooklyn, y'all. Like I told y'all a couple last weekend, I think, I had the chance to hang out with Gilbert. We had a really good time. That was my first time meeting him. Even though we were doing the show, but it was fun. We're gonna do that again. And
awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. We got a special guest on here tonight, y'all. I am so excited. Like,
I'm super hyped.
Yes,
I'm so hyped.
I'm so excited. She told us not to make her nervous, but this is the thing, everybody. When you're dealing with somebody that's actually had a part in history, we got to celebrate that. Plus, it's Women's History Month. So we're so glad to have Dr. LaVon Bracy on with us tonight. We're going to be talking about her story, her books that she's written.
Yes.
And just learn a little bit about her life. And so for those of you who may be watching, you might be listening, we want you to let everybody know that BMore Brooklyn is on. We got the live call-in number also, where you're able to call in 443-297-4753. And this way you can actually talk to Dr. LaVon as well. So Dr. LaVon, welcome to BMore Brooklyn.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
We're excited. So I don't know, Gilbert, you want to start or you want me to start?
I just want to hear. I don't even really, I want to sit back and listen because, I'm just super excited to hear, about that time and the sacrifice. First, I really want to say, and I said this before we even went on air, Happy International Women's Day. And, I'm super proud of women that really make an impact and are out here just, holding brothers like myself down because it's easy to turn your back on somebody, but you made a sacrifice that it affects me today and where I'm at in my career also.
Right, exactly. For all of us, especially Black women. So let's start back with, I was going to say, we're not going to do your age or anything like that. We're just going to go back and we're going to go back to when I saw your book and you were talking about being this little girl. So you were dealing with, I guess my first question is, what was it like with the segregation? Because you were in the South, right?
I was in the South. In the South.
So what was it like during that time with the segregation and integration and all of that going on?
Well, I don't mind talking about my age. I'm 72.
Oh wow.
So let me start from the 50s and 60s.
Mhm.
I lived in St. Augustine, Florida, and St. Augustine is the oldest city in the United States. My dad was a preacher, my mom was a school teacher, and my dad was the president of the NAACP.
Oh wow.
This was during segregation when we could not go into restrooms and we could not go into restaurants and hotels. And my dad was very concerned about what was happening in St. Augustine, Florida.
Mhm.
So he would go to city council meetings and school board meetings and talk about the resources that were not available for African Americans. And dad was labeled as a troublemaker.
Mm.
So the powers that be said that if my dad did not stop his activities trying to make things better for Black and brown people, that my family would suffer. So dad ignored them and continued to ask questions and continued to have demonstrations. So one day, my mother was a reading teacher and a very good reading teacher. The principal called my mom in and says, "Mrs. Wright, you are by far the best teacher I have, but the school board has indicated that this is your last day to work because of your husband's activities and his activities with the NAACP." So bottom line, mom lost a job. There are
Mm.
4 children. My mom and dad were accustomed to 2 parents working. So mother then had to find another job. She found a job about 35 miles away, which meant she had to get up very early in the morning to be to work at 8 o'clock, 35 miles away. She kept that job for about a year. They called in, the principal called in again and says, "Miss Wright, you're by far the best reading teacher that I have. But I have been told by the school board that this is your last day because your husband's activities." So she's lost a second
Right.
job. It got so bad in St. Augustine that the Ku Klux Klan decided to burn a cross in front of our house to let us know that they knew where we lived, and they sent us all sorts of threatening letters that they were going to kill the household. So my mother gave my dad a mandate, says that if we don't leave St. Augustine, I'm going to leave with my 4 children and leave you here to fight the cause by yourself.
Mm.
So dad knew my mom was serious, so that we would have to leave St. Augustine. Before we left St. Augustine, my dad and the Black doctor, the dentist that lived in St. Augustine, wrote Martin Luther King to come to St. Augustine to see if he could do anything to quell the problems that were happening. Martin Luther King did come to St. Augustine, and things got even worse.
Mm.
So my family left St. Augustine by night. My mother had us to lay down in the car so that if the Ku Klux Klan was following us, they wouldn't see anybody but my dad in the car. So we left St. Augustine, moved to Gainesville, Florida, which is about 120 miles away.
Mhm.
So my dad gets a job as a preacher again. My mother gets a job again as a school teacher. My mother asked my dad to promise that he would not join the NAACP. He would not try to change anything in Gainesville. We would live like normal human beings. And my dad says, "Sure, I'm not going to do anything. And we're just going to have a nice, normal life." And that lasted 3 months
Mm.
until my mom goes to church one day and a lady stops her as she was going in and said, "Oh, Miss Wright, we are so delighted that Reverend Wright is now president of the NAACP.
Wow.
And we are going to change Gainesville upside down." So you know what my mom thought? The first thing she thought, I'm going to lose another job because of my dad's activities. So dad says to mom, listen, I'm only going to do this 1 year. 1 year turned out to be 18 years, but he's told her that he was going to do it for 1 year. So he looked to see where the problems were in Gainesville, Florida. This is 1964. Brown versus Board of Education was 1954. 10 years have passed. Schools are still segregated. So dad goes to the school board, asks them when will they integrate the school system. And they told him it might take another 10 years because the climate wasn't right and they were not going to do it. So dad says, fine. So he filed a suit to integrate the public school system. And the NAACP and my dad won the suit. And the judge says that they have to integrate with all deliberate speed. So now here it is. My dad filed a suit. They won the suit. Now he has to find students that will leave the all black school to go to the all white school. So he had a strategy. He says, I'm going to start with the high school. And I'm going to look for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Because if I look for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, I will be able to have a graduation the very next year. So he knocked on about 500 doors, found a 10th grader, found an 11th grader, and no 12th grader. I was in the 12th grade. My brother was in the 12th grade. We were not twins. I had skipped a grade. So dad was so distraught that he had knocked on 500 doors and only found 2 kids. So I said to my brother, why don't we go to the all-white school? We'd be in the same classrooms, we'd have the same lessons, and we could talk to each other, and this would be a nice experience.
Can I ask you something?
And I said, Dad would be real happy.
Sorry to cut you. That part right there is what really amazes me. Like, you were what age at this age? At this time?
I was 15.
15. What makes a 15-year-old make such a dramatic decision? Like this is the part that I found so amazing because you volunteered for it. So
yes.
Where did that come from? Like, what made you make that decision?
Well, I saw that Dad was really concerned that he only had 2 kids. And I knew how my dad thought. And he was saying, how can I ask other parents to let their kids go? And then I have kids. And then I don't even ask either one of my kids. So I knew how upset and distraught he was and how disappointed he was. And I said, Dad, here I am. Send me, I'll go. And when I talked to my brother about going, my brother clearly told me, I don't care how upset Dad is. He said, I am in the band. I'm in the student council. I'm real popular, and I have 3 girlfriends. I'm not about to leave my girlfriends and go over there to the white school where nobody wants me. He said, you can go right ahead and satisfy Dad. I'm not going to do it. So my brother was very clear, very concise. He was not going, which he did not go. So I told Dad, fine. So when I said that to Dad, he said, listen, don't tell your mom because she'd be very upset right now. So Mom knew something was going on because every time Dad and I would be talking and she would come around, we'd change the subject. So my mom said, if you think that LaVon is going over there with those white folk, she's not. So it took all summer to convince Mom that I should do this. So reluctantly, she said yes. Then the FBI comes to the house.
Mm.
And the FBI says, Reverend Wright, I want you to postpone this for at least 3 more years because the climate is not right. We have surveyed Gainesville. They're not ready to make this leap yet. And so Dad says, you've had 10 years since 1954 when the law was changed and you did nothing. I am not about to make any concessions, and I'm not going to give you 3 years. So the FBI said to my dad, well, let me just tell you some of the things that have to be done. He said, number one, these 3 kids cannot congregate anywhere where a large number of white students will be. They cannot go to proms. They cannot go to basketball, football games. They cannot go to anything because we cannot guarantee their safety. So Dad decided with the FBI that he would take all 3 of us to school every day. We would be escorted by 2 policemen, one in front and one in back. The day before the first day of class, going to school, I did not sleep that night. I did because I didn't know what the next day would look like. I tossed, I turned. I was up 2 hours ahead of time, dressed, ready for school. Mom got up very early, fixed me a breakfast, and I was so nervous I could only drink some juice. She says, listen, LaVon, whatever you do, it may not be a nice situation, but you kill them with kindness. Well, if they're mean to you, don't be mean to them. I says, okay. So Dad took all 3 of us to school. He had prayer with us, told us to have a good day. The 10th grader went to their class. The 11th grader went to his class. And I proceeded to go to my class. I was surrounded by 6 white kids. They said to me, we don't want you here. If we allow you to graduate, you will ruin our class. If you don't go back where you belong, this year will be hell on earth. They proceeded to spit on me. They called me the N-word. And they said, if you don't listen to us, you're going to regret this year because you might not survive it. I listened. I proceeded to go to my class. I sat on the first row, on the first seat. The entire class got up and went to the other side. The teacher says, why are you standing? They said, I'd rather stand than sit by the N-word. So they stood, and the teacher said, you don't have to sit by her. Every day that I went to class, there were tacks in my seat, a nasty note. Under the seat were dead roaches, dead rats, dead snakes. That happened every day. There were 535 kids in my graduation class. Out of 180 days of school, I never had one to say good morning. I never had one to say goodbye. I had never had one to say hello. I spent the entire year in isolation. The hardest part of the day was trying to go to the bathroom. I would have to go to the class because I knew that when classes were exchanging, if I stopped by the restroom, I would be jumped. So I would rush to the class, wait for 10 minutes, ask for a pass, run to the bathroom, then run back. So then I had to watch my liquid intake so that I tried not to go to the restroom more than one time a day. If I went to the library, I had the entire library to myself. If I went to the lunchroom, I had the entire lunchroom by myself. It was a complete year of isolation. The teachers did not want me there. The principal did not want me there because my class had taken a pact that we don't want our class to make history. So in order for our class not to make history, we have to be as mean and as nasty as we can so that we will beat her down so badly that she'll go back to the all-black school. Well, to make matters worse, I go to school one day and I'm jumped by 6 white guys. They beat me unmercifully. I just thought that would be the last day that I would be on this earth. So I waited until the bell rang. As I laid on the ground bleeding, all those students that passed by, not one stopped to say, can I help you? And they saw the blood just profusely coming from my head. So once everybody had gone to class, I got up. I stumbled to the principal's office. Blood was just coming down from everywhere. And I told the principal that I had been attacked. The principal said to me, "How do I know you didn't leave home like that? I didn't see anybody attack you. And if by chance they did, you ought to know by now you're unwelcome. And you need to go back to where you belong."
What did that do to you? Like how you're this young lady who you just got assaulted, and it's sad. Even when I first learned about it, it was like, this is sad, and it's unfair. But how do you deal with something like that? Like, how were you feeling at that moment?
Well, number one, I thought I was dying because here I am. I'm just seeing all this blood, not knowing how much blood I'm losing, and I just knew that if I could just get to a telephone. I went to the principal to ask him, could I use the phone, and he said no, because I knew if I could get to call my dad would take me where I needed to go to get some help. So the principal says no, and you can't use the phone. And this is long before cell phones. And this is when there was pay phones, and you'd go into a red booth and you'd put a dime. And that's well before the times of either one of you would know about the telephone booth. So I went to the phone booth, put a dime in it, called my dad. My dad rushed to get me and took me to the only black doctor who was in the town at that time. And the doctor just stitched me up. I have stitches from here to the back of my head. And the doctor says, you know what? You need to go home and heal because they bruised and beat you up pretty badly. So I told Dad, I said, you know what? I just can't go back. I can't go back. He said, you don't have to go back. I stayed home about a week. And I said, Dad, take me back to school. And he says, I thought you weren't going to go back. I said, you know what? If I don't go back, they win. And I just can't afford to let them win. And if they have to kill me, they have to kill me, because I'm not going to let them win.
When did you have that moment? When did that come? It was like,
well, I had a lot of time to think about. I had a whole week home thinking. See, it was so difficult for me because I lost all my black friends. My black friends said she thinks she's better than us because she's going over there with the white kids. So I couldn't call my black friends that I had beforehand because they had alienated me. I had no white friends. So I was just in no man's land. I didn't have anywhere to turn. And I knew that if I did not succeed on this, there would be so many kids that would be coming behind me that were depending on my success. So I had to make up my mind, regardless of how difficult this is. Anytime you start something, you need to finish. So I said, Dad, take me back. And if they kill me, they kill me. But I can't afford to let them win. And they redoubled their efforts when I got back. I mean, and instead of having 2 or 3 snakes and roaches, they just tripled it. I just had all sorts of stuff by my desk, and the letters got more vicious and just terrible. The teachers tried to give me poor grades so I wouldn't graduate. That didn't work. So right before graduation, the rumor was everywhere that we didn't kill her then, but we're going to kill her at graduation. So here it is, graduation time. My brother and I, graduation on the very same day. So I say to my parents, listen, I don't need to graduate. Let's all go to my brother's graduation. I don't have to march. And my mom said, listen, with all the hell you've been through, you will march. So I did not want to tell my parents about the threats that I was getting. And I could not convince them for me not to graduate. So one parent went to my graduation and one parent went to my brother's graduation.
Who went with you?
Well, my dad. My dad went with me. My mom went with my brother. And so my graduation is at the University of Florida's campus.
Okay.
And when I get there are police everywhere. And I didn't know if the police were there because they had heard the rumors, or if they were there because they knew this would be the first Black and they didn't want any problems to happen adversely. So I didn't know for what reason they were there. And I was so afraid to get out of the car because of all the threats I had gotten. But I saw so many policemen, and I says, I don't think that they would just try to kill me right here at this graduation. So I reluctantly got in the line, and I was able to graduate and go across the stage without incident. And so after graduation, my dad says, well, now you can go to the University of Florida. They had been integrated maybe 2 years. And I said to Dad, listen, I am going to a historically Black institution because I am not going where I am in the minority, but I must go where I'm in the majority because I need to heal mentally, physically, and spiritually from the ordeal that I have just encountered.
And you said that was your senior year, right?
That was my senior year.
And first of all, thank you for all that you went through. My goodness. But when I was sitting here listening to you, it really brought back a lot of memories because I didn't grow up in, integration and segregation and all of that. But my dad is a minister. I was laughing at you when you were talking about your dad being a minister because they just have a mind of their own.
They do.
It's going to be a day and they go on for like 10, 12, So I understand that. And I was just sitting here laughing to myself because my dad is still like that. But my parents grew up in the South and they grew up, with the segregation and all of that. And they were poor. So they really had decided they wanted to give us a better life. And we grew up in white neighborhoods. And I didn't grow up at that time, but the school that I went to, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, a Jewish community. I went to a Jewish school. Well, we were not welcome in the neighborhood. And they let my parents know that we couldn't play with their children. And one day, and it's so similar because I wasn't graduating, but the graduating class I wasn't even aware. It was myself, and it was only another young lady, like 2 African American girls in the whole Jewish community that we lived in. And we're talking, getting off of the school bus, and they pulled both of us off of the bus, and they beat us and kicked us and punched us and spit on us from the bus all the way to the door. And I was listening when Gilbert said, how did it affect you? Because it really, back then, it had a huge effect on me, because I had gotten to the point where I just hated white people, period.
I did too.
I just hated them. And
I did too.
you feel like you haven't done anything to warrant this, but I still have not forgotten how it felt to be kicked and punched and my backpack pulled off of my back and somebody spitting on you and slapping you. And it's not just 1 or 2 people. This is like the whole entire 12th grade. And it was probably about 200 students. So you have all of these people like beating up on you all the way to the door. And it was traumatizing. And my dad had to really talk to me for a long time, because I just had a hatred for white people. And I had to learn that it's not all white people. It's like we got good and bad in both race. But did you go through that period of just like, I know you said you went to a HBCU. Did you go through a period where you just did not want to be bothered with white people?
Absolutely, I sure did. And the thing is, I think my experience helped navigate the rest of my life, because I promised myself that I sat in a classroom 180 days in complete silence. And I promised myself I'll never be silent again. That I would always speak truth to power. And I would always speak truth and speak for those who could not speak for themselves. So I became a real advocate for the disenfranchised and the downtrodden, merely because of the experience that I had in my senior year. I know what it is to be silent. Right. I know what it is to not have a voice. And I just said I would never, ever be in a situation that I don't have a voice again.
Yeah. And I think that it's probably difficult for some people to even understand that, because I used to talk to my mother on I do know what a payphone is.
Okay. I know you're all a little young. Okay.
I used to talk to my mother on the payphone every day, because I couldn't eat in the cafeteria, because if I ever went to the cafeteria to eat and I was sitting at a table, they would tell me that I had to get up, or if I tried to go and sit at a table with them, everybody would leave. I was the only Black person in all of my classes. And, I was always on the honor roll. We traveled a lot. We were transferred a lot. So when I've gone to like 4 high schools. So this was my 4th high school. But when I got to this high school, they saw that I was always on the honor roll, but they told me that it would be better for me to go into the vocational school. So they sent me over to the vocational school. They're drinking, drugging, doing all kinds of stuff. And my parents had to get involved in that to let them know they didn't want me there and to put me back. But I don't think that people even understand, like you said, about being silenced, going to school every single day, and there's nobody talking to you, like not even a teacher. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But you become an advocate, and I think that's why I speak up a lot for people too, because I just had that feeling like you're never going to do that to me again, ever.
Never. That will not happen to me again in this life.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what is your what do you advocate for mainly now?
Well, right now I advocate for voting, because the only voice that we have is through our vote. So I have spent the last 50 years being an advocate for folk to vote. And when people tell me they're not interested in voting, or they don't think that their vote matters, I begin to let them know what you are deciding, if you saying you are not going to vote, you have decided you're going to be silent. And you have decided, regardless to what the circumstance may be, that you don't care what is done. You don't care what's done on the state level. You don't care what's done in the local level. You don't care what's done on the national level. So you're saying, if you live in a neighborhood and they don't pick up your trash, you're going to be silent.
Right.
If you live somewhere and your taxes go up, you're going to be silent because you have decided that you don't want a voice. So I have been one that promotes voting. You have to, and that's the only voice you have.
Exactly. Right. And you know, the sad part is that our society now, like when we do shows like this, or we do shows where we're really trying to inform people, people don't tune in, but they tune into the silliness, to the people shaking their behinds, and they fighting, and they got these reality shows where you got Black women on there fighting each other, acting crazy, and all kinds of stuff, and that's what our society gravitates to. And then we have somebody like you who actually has scars. Like, you got physical scars and emotional and mental scars and trauma from going through what you went through. And it's like people don't, it's almost like it didn't happen to me. So, it's not a big deal. And it really is a big deal for me to be able to talk to somebody like you, because if it wasn't for you and other people were killed, so we could sit here, so Gilbert and I could sit here and do a show, and so we could go to college, so we can be free to go where we want to go. So I just really thank you so much. And Joyce Butler said, you paved the way. I'm in here crying and clapping loudly.
Thank you.
It's just really a blessing. And it's something that I'm glad it's Women's History Month, because a lot of times it's focused on in Black History Month. But, just to be able to talk to people who've actually gone through that is amazing. And when you said you have a scar, you got a scar from here all the way back
to my head. Yes.
Wow.
And, I hear you, Lady J. And, I in my head, I see the whole picture differently. Like, she's talking politely, she's being conservative, but the way I see it, she went up there like, I'm in here. What y'all talking about? I'm staying. I ain't told So like, that's how I see it. And I think it's the message of how you get it across. Because what she did, if you want to talk about, they look at all that nonsense. Hey, everybody want to be a gangster. To me, she's a gangster.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the OG, for real. Yeah.
That's gangster. Like 180 days, you say, right?
180 days.
180 days. Like, let's see how many of y'all could go 180 days, pure torture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I see it differently. How they, yes, they don't want to, they actually want to see it happen, but she lived it. She's telling her truth.
Right.
And I see it.
You
know why? Because we're able to go to any school we want to right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know that.
Yeah. And not only that, you can get scholarships now from any school.
Right.
You can actually pick and choose where you want to go, versus back then you were kind of limited, on where you can go. But I do remember my dad was born in Alabama, and my mom grew up in Virginia. And I remember the stories of them saying, like, they would be traveling on the road, but they couldn't even stop to go to the bathroom.
You couldn't, no.
And I'm like, wow, you couldn't go to the bathroom. And the one time, and my mom just told me this the other day, that she used to be a waitress at a restaurant, but you can't sit down and eat there.
No.
You can go to the bathroom. Like, it's unbelievable when I think about it. And when you look at it, it wasn't really that long ago.
It was not really that long ago.
It wasn't.
Yeah. Wow.
And what we have not done a good job in teaching history to the next generations, the generations to come, because they just assume, this cell phone And iPhone generation, they just assume that it's always been this way.
Right.
And they just really have no clue about the struggles that and the sacrifices that people have made so that they can live a much better life than we have. And so we haven't taught history very well.
That's why we got shows like BMore Brooklyn. You know, we get this piece of history. This is forever now. We, you know, once this message gets put out there, ain't no taking it back. So, you know, this story will forever be heard.
And we're gonna have to get you back on too to talk some more. You know, the thing is, I love history. I hate what happened, but I love to hear stories like yours. Now, the other great thing that that I really love about you is that you went on to further your education, because again, my mom was telling me that for them, you know, being so poor, it was really hard to get an education because they had to work, you know, they had to go out and work, because it wasn't like now, like my son didn't know what it was like to not come in and I have to help with the bills or help with the food and stuff. But you know, you all actually had to work. So the great thing I love about you is that you went on to further your education. And that's really like a slap in the face to them, you know?
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, I left there and I went to Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. And I got my bachelor's degree. And I finished there in 3.5 years. And then I went to the University of Miami and I received my master's degree. And then maybe 4 or 5 years later, I went to the University of Florida and received a doctorate degree in education.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still teach?
No, I don't. I'm retired now, even though I've
even on the side, you know, helping somebody get up there, might need a job or something.
No, I don't teach now. In fact, after I got married, my husband and I moved to Rochester, New York, stayed there for 3 years, and then we stayed in Philadelphia for 10 years.
Okay.
And we were there, and my husband is a preacher, and so my dad was a preacher. Now my husband a preacher. So we moved to Philadelphia. This was during the time that Wilson Good wanted to become mayor. He became the first Black mayor of the city of Philadelphia. And my husband was his pastor. So we got involved in big city politics while we were in Philadelphia. And my mother passed away, and my dad says, you know, y'all need to leave the North and come on back home. So we moved to Orlando, and we started a church here in Orlando. Nice. My husband and I did that for 20 years.
Wow.
I retired, and he called himself retired, but he's now the dean of School of Religion at Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach.
They can't stop.
They can't stop.
And I wanted to ask you, because that you mentioned that, you know, where did your father get it from? Was his father the same way, like, you know, Black empowerment, the movement, civil rights movement?
Really and truly, my dad, I graduated from Howard University Divinity School. And when my dad finished from Howard, I mean, Howard instilled so much in him about what needed to happen during the 40s and 50s. When he returned to St. Augustine, he just felt that it was his duty and responsibility to make a difference.
Okay.
And I mean, he got such a strong social justice education at Howard University in their divinity school. He was really ready to die for the cause. Yeah.
I think people are born that way. I think that it's just certain people who are born, especially during the civil rights movement, they were born, they didn't have any fear. And I think the focus was always making it better for the next generation. Like they don't want their children or grandchildren to have to go through or live through what they lived through.
Absolutely. And my dad always had the philosophy, you are placed on this earth to make a difference.
Yes.
And he says that my difference is if I get killed making a difference because I'm trying to make some things better for others, it's worth it. But he would always tell us, we're here to make a difference. And that was always in my mind as I went through high school. I'm here to make a difference. As difficult as it may be, you're here to make a difference.
Right. And speaking about that, 2020 was a rough year for everybody. COVID. We had a lot of, you could say unexplained or unwarranted murders of Black people. And one of them being George Floyd, and we, doing jury selection for his trial right now. Where do you see this going? Like as far as social justice, racial tension, like where do you think this is going?
Power never concedes without a struggle. Never did and never will. And the world is changing. And by 2030, the world is majority Black and brown. And we have to call it like it is. The white race, the Europeans are afraid of giving up their power. And they have just decided that they will do anything that they can. They have had mass incarceration trying to slow down what really is about to happen. They come up with all sorts of laws to disenfranchise us. And it's all because of racism and them losing their power. And it's been very difficult for them to understand that America is changing, it's going to change, and they're not prepared for it.
Right.
It's very difficult for them to have candid conversations about white supremacy, racism, and if anything good came out of George Floyd's situation is that it was on display for the world to see.
Yes.
We didn't have to protest and tell them what they do. The world was able to see what Black and brown people have had to put up with for years and years.
Because you never stop.
They never stop. No.
The only difference is we have cell phones.
Yes.
We're able to record, but
yes,
it's been going on since you were growing up. They never
absolutely.
and killing our men.
Absolutely. And had not that young girl taken her phone out and recorded what really happened, most of us would have never heard of the name George Floyd.
Exactly.
Never would have.
And we are so happy and disheartened at the same time, you never wish any harm on anybody. It always takes a special moment in history for things to change, and unfortunately, it took this man's life to move forward.
Yeah. Now, when you see, I just had a couple more questions, so I know we got to go in a minute. But how do you feel now, like after all that you've gone through, your father, all the stuff that your dad has done, and then you look and see the Black on Black crime now, especially with our young people?
Well, we have to call it like it is. It's a very sad situation that we've seen, but I think that has a lot to do with education. if you take a profile of most of the people that are being incarcerated that looks like us, many of them have dropped out of school. They have not taken education seriously. They don't have any skills, and it's problematic because uh, the schools that they have gone to, even starting in first grade, uh, some of them were subpar. They did not learn how to read very well. They found other things to do other than get serious about their school. And we have to understand that many of them have decided, I don't have a skill, I don't have a way of taking care of myself. So what do? We do drugs, we buy guns, we claim our territory, we'll kill somebody if they infringe upon our territory. And so when we talk about the whole picture, we have to talk about the fact that we have a problem among ourselves that we have to address and find a way to solve it. And it begins with our educational system.
Right, definitely. And
It
I wanted to
begins with
also
our educational system.
yes, definitely. And I also wanted to ask you about if you could just tell us a little bit about your books that you
Okay.
have.
Okay. Well, my last book is Brave Little Cookie, and it is a children's book that talks about the experience that I just shared with you.
Mhm.
And the reason I wrote this children book was that, as I said before, I don't think we've done a good job in letting kids know about the history and about the things that have happened so that they can learn from those situations and they understand that they may have things in their life that may be problematic, may not happen the way they want it to, but they need to know that they can be brave, they can be bold, and they can be successful. So I had no intentions of writing a children's book. I went to speak at a League of Women Voters, and after I shared my story, a lady came up to me and says, "You need to write this book, a children's book." I said, "No, I don't know how to tell this story to kids." And 2 weeks later, I was invited to an elementary school, and this was during Black History. And I says, "How do I tell elementary kids this story?" So that same brother of mine who wouldn't go to school with me is a retired educator. And I called him. I says, "How do I tell this story to children?" He said, "Go to the grocery store, get a white egg and get a brown egg. And you start out and ask the kids, what's the difference in the white egg and the brown egg?" And that's what I did. And the kid says, oh, Miss Bracy, there's no difference in the inside. The only difference is on the outside. So I began to take the white egg and the brown egg, and I told them about the difference in white and brown, and told them my story and weaved it around the brown egg and the white egg. And when I finished, I had all these kids raising their hands. Well, why don't you write a children's book so that we will know what happened years and years ago? So when I came home and I told my husband, he says, "Well, the lady at the League of Women Voters told you, the kids told you, so why you haven't written a children's book?" So that's how that book evolved, because when those kids were saying to me, "Why you have not written this story in a children's book?" That's when I said, I need to do that so that children can understand what it was like years and years and years ago.
Mm. Wow. Well, Dr. Bracy, we appreciate you coming on tonight, and thank you. Like I for all of your stories. I want to thank you for all that you went through. I'm sorry you went through those things, but it just empowers women like myself to know that even though you went through what you went through, you continued on with your education. You
Yes.
continued on being a great woman, and you lived your life despite what you went through. And that's a story that we all need to hear, Black men and white women, we all need to hear. Black men and Black women, I'm sorry.
Right.
Hear that, well, they need to hear it too, but I'm just saying, it empowers us because a lot of times, like you said, since we didn't go through it, I think sometimes we all take stuff for granted,
Right.
we assume that it's always been this way, but when we hear your story and, you start connecting those dots, then we're able to see exactly what you all went through,
Thank you.
But thank you so much. I appreciate it. And everybody, make sure that you're on Facebook. So it's Dr. LaVon Bracy.
Yes.
Make sure that you check out her books. Like I said, I love the what is it called? The Brave Little Cookie, because
Brave Little Cookie. Yes. And it's on my website is bravelittlecookie.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in the comments too, so they can see it. bravelittlecookie.com. But our children, they hate to pick up a book, so I think if we get the ebook, they should be okay. So I'm glad that. So it's bravelittlecookie.com.
Yes.
You go in there and you can read more about her. Send her a thank you. Like, this is Women's History Month. Send her a thank you. And I'm sure it's other people. We can have conversations with our parents too. Like, my parents are 82 and 84.
Okay.
So I hear a lot about what they went through. Some of it is just unbelievable, but that was the time that you all grew up in. So, but thank you so much. Anything you want to say, Gilbert, before we go?
No, I just want to express my appreciation again, because without your sacrifice, I wouldn't have, maybe I wouldn't have this opportunity that I had. I don't know, but I appreciate that you were there, you did what you had to do, and I am able to do what I had to do because of that. So thank you.
Thank you
so much. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this hour with you and sharing my thoughts and sharing my story.
Well, we have to get you back because now you're a historian, so we got to. So we have some questions. And everybody, before we go, I also want to let you know that Mr. Gilbert Bell has created a lot of items for BMore Brooklyn. And so I just want to pop a couple of them up on the screen so you can see the cup. This is the face mask. You got the water bottle. This is my sweater that's going to be here in a few days. And you got the t-shirts, you got hoodies, and they're all in different colors. So make sure that you check out the store. Gilbert, can you type the store in?
Let me see. I think I can put it in the chat, right?
Yeah. Make sure you guys check out the store because we got a lot of great stuff. I forgot the tote bag too, and these are the phone cases. So, we got a lot of great stuff that's going to be going on, and we want you all to be a part of what BMore Brooklyn is doing, what the station is doing. And, again, Dr. Bracy, thank you because of you, I'm able to have my own station,
Wonderful.
So you paved the way for a lot of us to do great and wonderful things. And so we just really, really thank you so much. And everybody, we have some more great shows coming up this week. So make sure that you check them out. Let everybody know about What Up Baltimore Online Radio, Black owned. And so we want to make sure that everybody joins in. And if you want to do a show, come on over here. We can get you a show started. We're going to close out with The Way We Came In. Like I told you guys, this is John Hansberry. Check out his music on YouTube. I'll put his name in the comments as well, so you can listen to his music. And we also have Kevin Curry. He does music as well. So we're trying to make sure that we push everybody's stuff.
Right.
So make sure that you all check out their music. You can go on YouTube and check it out. Dr. LaVon, whenever you want to come on our show, feel free. You can come.
All right. Thank you.
It's an open invitation.
Thank you so much.
We'll make time and space, even if we have to do it on another day.
All right.
Yeah, we definitely want you to come back on.
And honor the doctor and Women's Appreciation Day. Listen, if you order merch and you put in code LadyJ 2021, you get free shipping. So we want that. And honor the ladies today in shopping.
Awesome. Y'all check it out. Don't sit on it. Make sure you check it out. All right, everybody, have a great night. My name is LadyJ. I'm up here. I'm in Baltimore. I'm saying up here. Gilbert is up. Gilbert is up north.
I'm Gilbert Bell. I'm live from Brooklyn.
So y'all have a great night. We'll see y'all next Monday night on BMore Brooklyn. Take care, Dr. LaVon.
All right. Take care.
You're welcome.
We played games like freeze tag and hide and go seek. Your grandmother was sweet. There was always something to eat. Back when we said, yo, beef squash, man, I thought that was deep. To squash a beef and see them in the street with no repercussion. What's the malfunction? Now they kill for nothing. Back in the day when the summers were long, we stayed in the streets all night long. Without a care in the world. Back then you wrote a letter if you liked a girl. Hey, I like you. Do you like me too? Just answer the question. Yes, no, maybe so. When you had no dough, there were lawns to mow. House parties till her mother crashed it. And when she left, right back at it. That may have